revolutionize. In today's world, with a few word prompts, you can literally create all of these images in a matter of few seconds, whether it's architecture, interior design, or product design. And then modeling softwares like Rhino, Grasshopper help us to achieve the kind of complex shapes that we want to achieve, and you can tweak them based on functions. So the possibilities are endless. We tried this, giving word prompts to create what we actually did on the right-hand side, but the results that came out from AI was this. So I don't think it is yet a tool to be used effectively. We need to revolutionize, but we need to revolutionize looking at context, looking at climate, looking at material, and looking at nature and integrating those within our designs. So the principles of traditional architecture themselves, which have been there since centuries, can be used in so many multiple ways, and we don't have to literally copy the past, but we can use the principles in very effective ways today. So this is a house that we did in Nokha, which is a very small place in Rajasthan, where the client actually came to us with this brief. He said, "Hame Umaid Bhavan banana hai." So it took us a long while to convince him that there is only one Umaid Bhavan. You cannot just simply replicate Umaid Bhavan. So this, of course, this is nothing to do with Umaid Bhavan, but that is how it started. We took the principles of traditional architecture, creating the courtyard, passive cooling, all local materials, sandstone, and took it still further, creating these protected spaces outside of the house. So this house has a variation in volumes from 4.5 meters to 12 meters, depending upon where you are, and that's the sectional play through the house. And that's the house as one sees it from the approach. Completely built in local sandstone, sourced from Jodhpur within a few kilometers radius. It's got these sheltered screen spaces around every single room. And the building is fragmented into a cuboid composition of transparent archways and screens. So at every point you have different kinds of light coming in, a different kind of play in terms of the volume and the way it integrates with the landscape. Water has been used in a lot of ways to create passive cooling throughout the house, in the form of courtyards, in the form of running water on the side of the entrance. And this is a sunken seating within yet another courtyard. So in this one house, which is 36,000 square feet, there are about 100 different places that you can sit in and use in different ways, depending upon what time it is and how many people there are in the house. And at all points of the day, you have different light patterns created throughout the house. So the interiors have been done by Nina and Tanya, who are both here. So this is all deriving from traditional architecture, but using it in a completely different way than what it was in the past. It's a short movie. This house is 15 degrees cooler in the inside than the outside temperature, and that is without any AC or fan on. This next project is one that, like this hotel, took 12 years. But that's because the client started, built the civil structure, and then just decided not to go ahead because their business had gone a little slow. And it got revived 2 years ago. So the RCC structure had been standing since the last 10 years. And the last 2 years, the interiors were done and it was all completed. And the whole house is basically designed around 9 trees that existed in the site. So keeping all those trees intact, we've literally grown the house in a T shape around those existing trees, with one of the trees actually going through one of the decks. So that's the location of the trees with respect to the house and the way it weaves in. So it's completely kept on the southern side of the plot, with the garden on the northern side and all the rooms facing the north. So in terms of cross-section also, based on the client's needs, the house would have gone ground plus 2, but then a ground plus 2 house somehow does not really look correct in terms of scale. So we convinced him to go a subterranean level, and then at the subterranean level, there is a courtyard scooped out, so you have natural light even at the subterranean level. So these are views of the house from different directions, where within the trees, it just folds. The house is made of 9 folds that envelop the spaces within the trees, creating large cantilevered decks to every single room within the house, where you literally stand out looking at the trees at very close distance. Like every part just captures the natural landscape outside. The interiors here are done by Aisha and Nina. There's a focal staircase right at the center, and that's the subterranean level with natural light flowing in through the courtyard. Short movie. This is a building we just completed in Udaipur, in the same city, and very, very tight plot. In the sense, the plot is large enough, but when you leave the 12-meter open space that you are supposed to leave on all sides based on the rule, and you have to consume an FAR of 2.5, and there is a height limitation. So currently it is Udaipur's tallest building, but the tallest is capped at 21 stories at the moment. So it's literally like somebody told you that within this site, this is what you can build. And literally giving you that, okay, this is it. Now you do whatever you want to do inside of this. You can't come out, you can't go in. If you go in, you lose FSI, you cannot consume the FSI. So with those parameters, this building is designed with 4 apartments to a floor, each one cross-ventilated, and there's this whole envelope created all around the building, which has a series of balconies that are either open or semi-enclosed or completely closed with sliding screens. That's a cross-section, 2 basements for car parking, and this is the building with screened balcony spaces to every apartment looking out at the hills in the background in all 4 directions. We have beautiful light patterns in all of the balconies, and each one of these spaces very nice to experience. And it is pertinent in the climate here because, again, it reduces the heat gain into the building tremendously. This site is located in a rapidly urbanizing area in Udaipur, Rajasthan, surrounded by hills on all 4 sides. The 21-story apartment building that we've designed has 4 apartments to each floor, each one forming a quadrant of the total square plan that the building has. With this, each apartment looks out in 2 directions towards the hills in the surroundings. Every room of every apartment opens out into balcony spaces, so there is this envelope created of semi-sheltered spaces throughout the building facade, and this forms a very important aspect in reducing the heat gain in response to the hot summer climate of Udaipur. To create privacy and further mitigate heat gain, these sheltered decks have perforated screens which allude to the traditional architectural elements of the heritage of Rajasthan, where stone screens were used in palaces and homes through centuries to reduce the heat gain inside. So each apartment is planned with 5 sheltered balcony spaces. 4 of these are 10 feet high and 1 is 20 feet high. Alternate balconies are screened, and the screened balconies too have sliding screens which allow one to open those screens. So now you have a choice whether you want to sit in a completely open balcony, completely shielded balcony, or a semi-shielded balcony. The screens create this very interesting light and shadow pattern that constantly changes throughout the day. So the design of this building capitalizes on the views that are available in all 4 directions, giving every single user the choice of 2 different views from their apartment. While this is a high-rise building in a rapidly urbanizing area of Udaipur, it takes cognizance of the climate, it alludes to the traditional architecture of the region, thereby making it contextual to the surroundings. That's the highest pool in Udaipur currently. In interesting thing, these screens are all made of Indo wood, which is the wood substitute we spoke about, and Indo wood is here. And we've done all kinds of tests to know that it is heat resistant, water resistant, and all of that. And it's working very well. So this is a museum project also that we've done in Udaipur. And this is inside the Shiva statue, which is the tallest Shiva statue currently in the world. So when we were given this, we got this kind of a plan because it's from the base of the Shiva statue, is very irregular in shape. And the whole thing was how you take that organic shape and continue and create the whole space internally to based on that instead of trying to straighten it out. So there's a series of curvilinear volumes that merge into each other with single neutral palette, and all of this is done in Flexstone. The columns, the walls, the benches, the reception table, the flooring, all merged one single unified material. And then we've divided the entire space into a series of rooms which have immersive experiences. So you gradually move from one to the next to the next. And it's called the Atma Manthan Museum. So this is one of those rooms. And that's another one where the floor as well as the walls have the immersive experience. A very quick video, very short. And this is the last project. This is actually the smallest project that we've done in recent times, but it's been the most satisfying as well as one that has had the most impact for the people for whom it was done. So the site is located in Nokha, in the middle of desert literally, and what you see at the back is the client's house, and they actually own literally all the land around them. And their father had passed away, and the white spot is where the rites were done, the last rites, and they wanted to build a small memorial in his memory. And they actually came to us with this sketch, saying that somebody has already designed this, can you just improvise it slightly, and we want to start immediately. So we looked at this and said that why would you want to make a small memorial space which only you and your family will use? Let us know the budget and let's do something for the entire village here. Because Nokha is a place of 144 villages, and we went and studied what facilities are available, and it's literally nothing. There's no community space at all in a long, it's a large radius of space. 144 villages, what they do is when they have any kind of function, they put up a tent, and then they take it off the next day. And this is the condition of the schools. This school is a 500-meter walk from the site, and that's how they're studying there. And believe it or not, these children are happy in this school also. It just goes to show what how people can be satisfied with what they have. Because I went and asked them, I said, what do you want? If you had a new school, what would you want? She said, we don't want anything. This is a girls' school. I said, we are very happy, we've got everything. And then I asked further questions that, do you have a place to learn music? He said, no, we would like that. Do you have a place where you can learn cooking? He said, no, we would like that. So that's how it transpired. And then we are now doing a girls' school also. Anyway, back to this side. That's the location with respect to the sun. And we started off by making the place of the last rites as a focal point and building around it instead of enveloping it. So luckily for us, the clients agreed to create a community center. And this was a sketch done on flight, and that's how it started. And we started with the idea of you doing a courtyard and then cutting it open so that you have more people that can participate in any function that happens there, extending the arms out further and protecting it from the sun, and then making the roof itself also usable by sloping it down towards one side. And then he studied the amount of water that would be required for a building of this size. The building is only 9,000 square feet, but with all the common facilities and which is required, we studied the amount of water. And based on that, he made a 9 lakh liter water tank within the site. And this is completely self-sufficient. So there is no water that comes from the outside from any other source. It's only rainwater harvesting that drives the entire project through. And all of the earth that was used to make that water tank is made as an earth berm to further cool the building from the south, east, and the western sides, within which there are scooped skylights that give natural light into the museum space which is below. And towards the larger arm, where it appears like a bulb on the right-hand side, is a student's library. And this is open to all the villagers. So that's the final plan, and these are the cross sections, the way the building opens up towards the northern side and varying sections through the building. And that's how it appears now. So the south, east, and west are completely earthborn. The building is naturally cool. It has no water source from the outside. All the water is rainwater harvesting, and this is in the middle of a desert. So none of this garden or any of the other facilities that need water get water from outside. It's all from within the site. All the material is local sandstone available in the region. All the labor employed was from these villages. So literally nothing has come from beyond a 10-kilometer radius within this site. It was all built during COVID, where we had 6-hour-long video sessions explaining the sections and the curvatures, because none of these laborers who worked there had done anything in a curve before in their whole lives. Everybody was used to making only squares and rectangles. That's a museum space, this is a library space. And here again, the last I visited this was in May, and it was 42 degrees outside. And although we have provided air conditioning inside the library, it was surprising to see that there was no air conditioning on, no fan on. Children were studying. I sat there for 20 minutes. Believe me, in 42 degrees, there was no need of any air conditioning in this building because of the earthworm, because of the sandstone walls. Completely naturally cooled. So the great thing that this building has done is provided a space which was much required for all these villagers, bringing them together in various ways. 500 is not a large number, but in a place like Nokha, 500 people visiting this place on a daily basis to use it, not to see it, to use it, is a great number. And the great thing about this project now is that the clients, after having built this, the kind of goodwill they got from all the people in their community, it has fueled their desire to create even more things. So now we are working on several of these projects, all pro bono. The first one of this has already started construction. It's the girls' school. It was the same school that I was talking to the students, like, so what more do they need? So here, this is being built on the existing contours with deep recessed windows. Again, the school is designed for zero air conditioning. These were the discussions we were having with them. And then we're doing a small community garden within a neighborhood of houses. And then this very interesting project, which is a 200-year-old Shiva temple, which is being restored in the sense that the temple is still there, but it's just the temple, and there's nothing else around it. There's not even a bathroom facility around it. So we're creating a series of community spaces all around this temple, stepping down on the hill, and that will be starting soon. So this is the last bit of the presentation. It's a brief movie on the Nokha Village Community Center. So it's about revolutionizing, but with context in a sustainable way. And that's what all of us should be doing. Thank you very much for your attention, and thank you very much for coming here for Dialogues.